Welcome back to another episode of Bulletproof Mindset. I'm your host, Coach Crossar, and today I welcome a very special guest. Now, the theme of the Thursday episodes, as you know, we bring on guests and we dive into their stories. But what I want to do is look at the back catalogue of guests that we've had and bring some of those guests back on and dive deeper into a subject that they're an expert in. And that's what we do in today's episode with Mcnee. Now, Gio, if you haven't already listened to the first episode of him, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to hear his story. This was I think it was roughly about a 2-hour conversation navigating his whole challenges of his upbringing and how he became so successful at such a young age. He was going from one foster home to another, but the way he was so open-minded to approaching every single situation in his life is honestly, it's truly remarkable. And there's no reason why he has become Mr. Mindset and helps others unlocking their potential with unlocking static mindset that they may have. Now, I had so much fun recording this with Gio, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring him on is because every single Sunday in his coaching community, he does a call, and the way he handled one of the most recent calls where someone was really struggling, and being able to hear live how he navigated the conversation and helped that person literally unlock a new part of their brain to go, right, you know what, I can do this and I can get after some of these things that I want in life, was one of the reasons I wanted to bring him in. Now, to preface this, what I asked Gio to do was bring us 3 favourite tips to help all of us improve our mindsets. Mindset is everything that we do, and it can be a bit of a buzzword in any space, whether it's the business space or whether it's the fitness space, but it absolutely is the catalyst of everything that we do. And we don't dive into just some surface level stuff. We get right into the roots in today's episode, and the advice that Gio gives is truly fantastic, so you won't want to miss that. Now, this is after about a 30-minute conversation, so if you want to get right to the tips, that's about 35 minutes in. But within the first 30 minutes, Gio dives into some of the challenges that he faced when he was at his lowest, and it was really good to hear how he started to unpack that and why he wanted to unpack that, because there's a lot that we can learn from that. Now, if you do like this episode and you like the advice that Gio's given, I'm actually very surprised that there isn't a ton of people lapping up this offer that he's got going on just now. For just £20 a month, you can join Gio's coaching community, where every week they have a call and you get the opportunity to be coached by Gio. There's obviously opportunities to be coached one-to-one, and there's no contract with that. So for as little as £20 a month, honestly, I think this is a fantastic, valuable offer, and highly recommend, if you like what he says in today's episode, head over there and check out what he's got to offer. There's no contract with this as well, so if it's not for you, then you're not tied to anything, which again is another fantastic part of it. Now, not only that, Gio does a ton of things for free as well, so I highly recommend checking out his Instagram. He is at Mount Mindset. And what I really like about Gio is that he isn't someone that just talks the talk. He is literally someone who has walked the walk. He has bought all the fancy toys. He's bought all the fancy jewellery, watches, cars. And his perspective on life is honestly, the best way I described it in the podcast was that he's an incredible role model to aspire and look up to with his outlook towards the whole mindset component. So he's genuinely someone who's done it all, and I think there's a lot we can learn from this. So without further ado, let's dive into the episode. One last thing before we do, I'm chasing 300 5-stars on Spotify, so if you haven't already, please consider leaving a 5-star rating. It's the best way you can support this little podcast I've got going on. So with that being said, it's been my pleasure to record this episode for you guys. I hope you enjoy. In fact, I know you'll enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next one. It's good to have you back as a returning guest, and
thank you.
Minus one player in the room this time, so it feels better. There's no interruptions with James being here. But I wanted to bring you back on. So since last time you've been on, we didn't dive too much into the whole mindset. That was just, were you running with that at the time? Was it an early idea?
I think it spawned. It isn't what it is now, but it was germinating as we were doing the podcast,
getting into it. And I thought, with the title of my podcast as well, Bulletproof Mindset, I've not done an episode with a deep dive on some sort of mindset tips or anything like that, and I think they can definitely be overdone. But hearing you on your call on Sunday night, I think it just sparked us like, man, you definitely have a gift for this, and I can see why you do the Mount Mindset stuff. So I thought, let's bring you back on and let's dive into some of the tips and tricks of what.
Thank you. What did you see? What did you spot?
It was more, you're going to hate this, it was more actually the compassion side of you that I actually liked, that you had someone who has got a lot of judgment, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of lack of belief in themselves as an individual. And it was really cool to watch how you kind of dove into their story. It was like a live coaching experience. It was like you coaching them 1-to-1, but we all get to witness it. And kind of hearing his ideas come out and then how you navigated the conversation, I really liked it. And I thought, man, let's get you on and actually have an open episode, because I think a lot of people struggle with what, I'll not say his name in case he doesn't want to have it broadcasted, but what the chat was going through. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very common thing in today's world, particularly in and around Scotland. And that's where when you kind of look at mindset genuinely is everything. But I wanted to start with this question to you. What would you say your definition of mindset is? I know you've asked me this question before.
My definition of mindset is your perception of the world based on the beliefs that you hold that forms how you see how things happen in your life and what you're likely to do in the future. Mm-hmm. And it's not fixed, it's something that can be developed. A lot of people think mindset's just your state of motivation or your state of desire to get an outcome. It's much deeper than that. And what you'd seen on the call is that people have a particular set of beliefs of how they create their perception of the world. Yeah. So the chap that was on, he had a set of beliefs that were embedded in him, and that created his reality and his perception, and he felt stuck. And that's a very common thing. And it's about understanding why he feels stuck, and understanding how his particular beliefs are blocking him, and then how you can create a pathway for him to shape a better set of beliefs. Because it's not to say his experiences were wrong or they were incorrect or his perception was wrong. It was just a case of, with his current set of beliefs, he was locked into a certain view of the world, and that if he wanted to tweak and upgrade those beliefs, it would tweak and upgrade his perception of the world, which would infinitely make him feel better. Yeah. And that, when you feel better, that's what people call motivation. Because when you start to get a bit of momentum whilst feeling good, that creates high motivation. Mm-hmm. And then it's about keeping that sort of wheel going. Mm-hmm. So that was essentially what we done on Sunday, where it was just a case of taking someone that had, I thought he was really, really good, that he was open and vulnerable, and is honest to just go, look, this is, just heart on his sleeve, just look, this is how I feel, because it's something that probably people wouldn't talk about. Yeah. And allow us to sort of, be part of that and watch it, and then shape a bit of a conversation about, like, it's recognising that that's what you think. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not to say, oh, you're stupid, you shouldn't think that, because that's what happens. Somebody goes, oh, don't be daft. Mm-hmm. Don't be daft, you shouldn't think it. It's this case of, recognise why you think that, and it might make you feel like this, and that develops a deep sense of rapport, because if somebody knows how you feel connected to them because they get you. Mm-hmm. And they've recognised, your belief. But
you look at any sort of environment where you're maybe selling a product, you try and be relatable and likeable, and you're more likely to trust them a wee bit more. And I think that's what it comes down to, the trust part. And that's what I liked about the whole call, because I was thinking his situation was nothing to do with health and fitness, but I always bring back to how I'm helping everyday people, and I'm like, this is exactly the kind of frame of the mindset when I get someone that has tried multiple diets, tried all these different things, and it's like there's this build up of what they believe is, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but their experiences and all this data, and it's kind of forcing them down this route of, I can't be that person who's healthy or fit. I can't get into fitness because it's not worked for me before. So that's why I liked some of the coaching kind of phrases that we're using, how to reframe their mind and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is it's about, you have people that have a frame of mind in terms of, you'll see these reels where it's like, do you hear brainstorm, or do you hear, can't remember what the other one is.
The purple dress and blue dress.
Yeah. So
and there's a critical thinker as well. Luz says he thinks like this. So if you say, think of a giraffe, some people think of the actual animal. Other people think of the word giraffe. He doesn't see pictures. Everything's all words and numbers in his head. And I was like, no freaking way. I was like, there's fucking no chance that's a thing. Do you think that some people are just wired that way?
I don't think so. I mean, what happens is we have 5 senses, the 3 main ones that we use to develop our sort of mental picture of what we see. Are kinesthetic, which is feeling. So how you feel. auditory, which is how things sound, and visual, which is how you see things. And if anybody's ever set like the audio on a stereo, they'll know that, you can adjust the particular parts of sound. You maybe add some bass, take out some treble. You can get it to the way that you like. Well, people's feelings and senses are like that, and that they have a preference for one of them, and they'll be able to tell you. I mean, obviously people can visualize and hear, and they can sort of feel, but they don't all see and feel and hear at the same levels. So they'll have a dominant part, which was, and they'll give you clues, because they'll go, if you're strong in empathy, so you'll really relate to how people feel, and you'll say things like, I know how it can feel. I can imagine what it would, feel like. So you're bleeding off that signal that I'm very, very, my dominant part is kinesthetic. And then you get someone that will go, I like the way that sounds. What one do you think they are? Auditory. And then you get someone going, well, I can see where you're going with it. I like the way that looks. They're very visual. So it's about understanding where their dominant what dial have they turned up the most?
What frequency are they maxing out?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that movies are a really good example of what they do, where they cover them all. So like if you look at a big sort of car chase scene,
the suspense,
it's visually it's very impactful, but there's also music that's quite dramatic, and it'll cut to the actors' expressions, which is feeling. So they're buying you into all of the senses to get you to respond. So regardless of which one's dominant for you, they've got a bit of everything to capture your dominant part.
That's a good way to explain that. I heard the phrase that you used in the call as well, and it's a great way of putting it. It's like you've got I think you said something along the lines of like, if you constantly keep looking in the rear view mirror, how can you see where you're going? And I've heard this phrase come up a lot of times. It's such a powerful way to get someone to stop in their tracks and go, yes, the judgment and the experiences all matter to some extent, but if you keep focusing on that, how can you expect to keep going forward with it?
Well, Irish Dave came up with a great conversation, because what Irish Dave done was he referred to a previous call that we did where we covered off. I actually gave a test. I put up a poll, and the poll was, does your past dictate your future? And it was a yes or no. And everybody says yes, your past does affect your future. And I done an example where I got everybody to fill in a particular set of questions and proved that your past is absolutely no bearing in the future. And I was watching the faces in the call, and it was like the penny drop moment where they were like, they had this eureka moment. We're like,
yeah,
I didn't realise that, because their mindset, the beliefs that created their perception was that your past dictates your future. And then when you display to someone that it has nothing to do with what you can do in your future, this past doesn't matter. It's the same as if you're driving a car. And if you imagine that for anyone that's drove a car, if you're trying to go somewhere, which is your future, where you aim for, your vision, your goals, you're heading there, but you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror if you're focusing on the past. So if you get people that say, people like me don't get it, maybe I shouldn't, this happened to me, so that should hold me back. I've been, I've not done well in the past before, so how can I possibly do well in the future? They'll say all these things, which is the past. And what they're doing is they're attempting to drive to the future destination, but only looking in the rearview mirror and wonder why they keep crashing. It's the same thing with what you're saying with people with diets. It's like, well, if you keep looking at what's been, you don't look where you want to go, how are you ever going to get there? And that's the sort of example where you say, look, that past thing's been and done, right? It mattered to you. It was really important. It's a part of your life, but you can either look at that as a part of life that's the rock that you'll hold, that it'll be the burden, and you're carrying it, and you can keep it there, or you can say, look, that's going to stop me in my life, or you can change that, which is, right, I learned a lot from that, and I'm going to take what I learned from it and make myself improve. I'm going to get improvement in my life because of what I learned. So that's the springboard to go into the future. And all of that is based on your mindset, because when you remember, mindset is a set of beliefs, so how you see things, that create your perception, which is here today, what happened in the past, and what's going to happen in the future.
It's absolutely everything. So today's episode then, so just to kind of set the audience in the the right frame of mind as well. I asked Gio to bring like his 3 favourite tips or strategies or whatever you want to label them as to help those that may, or those who want to develop more of a growth mindset. What's the other phrase kind of regarded as like is it just it's not a non-growth mindset, was it like a negative mindset? Can I guess there's one, or feeling stuck?
Yeah, you can have a mindset which is stagnant, just still.
That's the word I was on, yeah.
So you have a stagnant mindset, which is where you're not growing, you're not developing. There's essentially 6. If people really want to understand a deep dive in mindset, we have 6 basic principles that we call life. Like people, I don't know what it's all about. Well, here's the fucking 6 things it's about, right? Here's the 6 things. The first thing that people need is certainty, right? So we wouldn't come in this room if we thought that we weren't certain that this ceiling would fall in, or that these lights would fall down. I know you put them up. There's a good chance, but we need a degree of certainty, like that isn't going to go on fire with the lights. We have certainty, right? So that's one of the first needs that we have. The second thing is that, because the world is ironic, and we've discussed it, and everything has its poles, we need a certain degree of uncertainty as well, because otherwise we get bored. So we like adventure, we like trying new things, we like things to surprise us. So we need a balance. The first one that is completely opposed to the second one. And then the third thing that we need is love. So we all we're social creatures. So we like to give love, we like to feel love. So that's the third one. The fourth one is significance. So we do things so that we feel significant, sometimes to ourselves and sometimes to people we love and care about. So they're the 4 things that people strive for. So when people usually say, I don't know what it's about, what's happening is they're missing one of those 4. And when you get to one of those 4, generally what happens is when you have a degree of certainty, your life feels somewhat dialed in, but you also seek a certain degree of uncertainty, so you probably try things that are new, right? And when you want love, you probably have a family, or you have loved ones, you have friends that are close-knit, that you like spending time with, that you enjoy. And when you have significance, you're probably doing quite well, because you found something that you're good at that gives you fulfillment. And generally in this world and day and age, we will have some degree of financial reward that will pay off for doing that. So once you get those 4, you're like, right, what next? It's a conversation that I have is with people that have nailed the first 4. Like, what do they do? And the 5th and the 6th one are the ones that they seek and they don't know how to find, and they can be actually trickier than the first 4. And the 5th one is that you want to continue to grow, right? Because there's only, your family gets to a certain size, money, there's a certain degree of money where you're like, right, I've got enough.
When they matter as much as the 6th kid.
The 6th, 7th kids, how many more?
It's not going to make a difference to the 4th.
And you go, well, at what point, like, I've got 10 cars, will the 11th car make me happier? And you go, no. And this is what happens, is you'll see this with people that have nailed the first 4, they're like, well, what next? And the 2 things that come after that is growth. You want to continue to grow. And generally that's in things that aren't directly attached in the financial world, where you're looking to do something that's meaningful, that can make you grow as a person. And they generally overlap, because the 6th and final one is that you want to serve others, which is the greatest expression in your life is that you've went through whatever your story is, the good and the bad, and you've picked up a way of dialing in the first 4. So then you then go and help other people, because when you help other people, you feel like you're still growing, and then that's when you feel complete. And a lot of people that I've helped in the past is that they're either getting to the end of nailing the 4, or they've been in the 4 that long they're really lost, and they can't answer the question, why is it that why have I got a great family? Why have I got loads of money? Why have I gone all these holidays? I feel great, and why have I got all this certainty and I still feel lost? What is it that I'm missing?
I think that's one of the reasons, like, you hear about celebrities kind of going down the route of drugs and all this sort of stuff, because there is a hole missing when you kind of look at someone, you're like, oh, they should have their shit together. They've got all this money, all this fame, all this fortune. Looks like they've got a great family from what you see. Like, you've got the influencer families that people will follow. It's like, why?
It's the meaning that they attach to life, because the meaning, like, you can take someone with all the money in the world, and they've had the greatest upbringing in the world, they're born into money, they've never worried about money, and yet they die of a drug overdose, coming out of rehab 7 times, and you go, well, you've had everything possible in those first 4, so how is it possible that you've wrecked it so bad? And you get someone that's came out of like a war-torn country, being abused, violated, all manner of atrocities, and they then go and make a decision that they're going to have a phenomenal life. How is it possible that the first person makes it so bad and the second person makes it so good when they came from complete opposite ends of the scale? And what happens is the meaning that they attach to what happened. So just like we were talking about, earlier on for the call, when you frame something in a negative, limiting pattern in your mind, you believe it. You tell yourself it long enough. My mum told me not to get above my station, that I should just get my head down. I shouldn't be I shouldn't say anything. I should just go on with it. So what do you feel? You feel helpless. You feel like you can't speak up. You feel like you're never heard. And then you go, well, you do that long enough, then you believe it and you think it's you. And then
it's your identity becomes what you believe is your identity.
And look at what it does to people, and they go, I don't know, and they'll try all the things. Like, this is what I mean, is like mindset's a bit like a combination game, because what you want to do is understand the particular combination that your situation has. And that's why you get people who go, well, watch all the motivational videos, and I watch all I write the positive affirmations. It's like, well, if you frame the world in a different way, like if you've got a negative framing and then trying to cure it with positivity, then you're not going to cover the void. The void's only covered when you start understanding how you frame it, which is your perception, and then move it to the other place by starting with what you know. Because
so this is a very good point, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I meant to actually speak to you about it. So I completely agree with you on that front, right? What would you say, because I know you have a hard stance on the whole fat shaming works, right? So to the same extent, to someone who's dieting, do you think, or someone who's trying to change their lifestyle, try to become healthier, try to become fitter, that's where I would argue that individual, the exact same, it's like them try to write down positive affirmations when they don't believe it. The same for someone who's maybe considered overweight, like telling them they're fat and they're this and they're that. That's not going to work for them because they know it. I truly believe that deep down they know it. So do you agree with that point? So this is something we've went back and forth with, that you still don't believe? No, because
in their heart of the hearts, they look in the mirror, they're fat.
Like, they know it.
So
why telling them?
Are they accepting it?
Yeah.
Like, there's a big thing. Like, people will do this. This is what I see.
I think they are accepting it.
I don't think they are, because if you listen to what they say, and I'll hit you with them. You see if you know what I mean. Because you might go, well, now you mention it, or you might go, I totally disagree. Right. So here's what happens is, like, I'll give you an example where I fat shamed somebody. Right. I fat shamed them to their core. Right. And it was done in such a way. Now, I'll preface this. They weren't that fat, right? And they weren't that out of shape, and they didn't have a lot of work to do, right? But they were bullshitting themselves about what they were telling themselves, and I knew why they weren't getting to that. They weren't getting from there to there.
That fourth point is very important, though. I don't know. I think I know the type of people that you're thinking. Like, I'm fit. I can still do this and hit it with bullshit numbers all the time. I can run whatever sub 25k and whatever it is. So you can call bullshit on those people. You're absolutely right. In those circumstances, there's a percentage of people that works with. But if fat shaming worked, why would more people not?
Well, when back in my generation, when people were fat shamed, the general population were less fat, and as if we've called out fat shaming as a bad thing, people are getting fatter. So the data would tell you that there's something up with.
Yeah, but that's weird to say. Like, I think you're limited in social media. You are limited on, like, food growing up. And I know we're only not that far apart, but the access of food and all that growing up now, like, it's only the last 10 years that you would say that the ability to press two buttons on your phone and have that whole challenge of, we can get a 3,000 calorie pizza delivered to the gym by pressing two buttons. That wasn't a thing, like, just over 10 years ago.
I mean, the thing is,
there's more
like,
challenges.
Well, like with fat shaming, I think, like, fat shaming, like, it's always about intent, right? See, any of the sort of stuff that goes on today is all pushed on. I always come back to intent. What's your intent? See, if somebody's saying to you, look, right, see this body positivity bollocks here that you're getting, just accept yourself, and, your plus size and your big bone, you've just got to be natural, and that's you. Bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. Here's the thing, right? You might enjoy the way that you look, but you're not healthy, right? Because your body wasn't designed to look like that, right? It wasn't made that. It's telling you something's up, right? Now, if we look at your health measurements, the metrics to see how healthy you are, you're not healthy. right? And we don't even need the test because we can see by your body that you aren't healthy. So even for the point of view of, right, if you're willing to accept that, right, if you're willing to say, right, I'm accepting that I'm living an unhealthy life, look, it's up to you if you want to do it. But don't sit and get me clued into the idea that this thing it shouldn't be mentioned. Like, we shouldn't say.
I think that's a different side into, because that's not really true body positivity, or true love for yourself. Because I think if you get down, if you're going through those, even if you look at the mindset perspective of an individual, they're going through those 4 pillars, and they might not be ready for pillar 5 and pillar 6, but when they truly look at themselves, if you get to the point and you're like, you are in the morbidly obese category, and you answer that question with, yeah, I do love myself. It's like, well, if you have true love for yourself, you'd want to live a longer, healthier and fitter lifestyle, not just for yourself, but for the family and friends that you have around with you. Even that's where it's broken.
If you say to them, you say, look, right, there's 2 versions of you, right? We're at the crossroads of your life, and we're going to use your imagination, right? So just picture the scene. You're fat, you're out of shape, you've bought into this story that you should just accept and embrace being plus size and that it's great and you should be really positive about it, right? But deep down, you know there's a balance that's off. So there's a fork and a crossroads in your life, and it looks like this. Shut your eyes and imagine your life 20 years from now, where you don't do anything. You keep hitting the Just Eat, you keep smashing the ice cream, you just keep affirming your body positivity. Right, look at who you would become in 20 years. Imagine what you'd look like. Feel how you would feel. Look at what you would look like in the mirror. See yourself, that vision of yourself, right? And think of how that makes you feel right now if you don't change anything. And imagine another fork in the road is the most unbelievable version of you. You're fit, you're strong, you're healthy, you have a glow about you, you have higher self-value and higher self-worth and better confidence. And you don't actually need to affirm some deluded idea of what you should look like, because you're the very best that you could be, right? Feel how you would feel and see yourself how you would see it in the mirror, right? And imagine what that would feel like. Tell me which one's the best, right? And guess who the only thing that's in between those two, your decisions, right? It doesn't matter how bad you fucked it. It doesn't matter how much MS. You can look like 2 pillows being shoved into one pillowcase. That's how bad you are. But you can make a decision here today, and you can still get to that 20 years down the line. That can be you, and all it is choices.
Yeah, so it all comes down to choices, absolutely. Which is weirdly enough, because you had that Adam on your podcast, and he's someone who's at, again, same crossroads, and it's the whole I'm not good enough for, and I understand this from the bodybuilder's point of view. Having Andy on, he made the point, he's like, I do have body dysmorphia, but not to the extent that I'm like, I know I'm not, I don't see myself this wee skinny guy. I go, right, I know I'm above average, but I want to be the best. I want to be Olympia level. So that body critique, or the challenges of what he sees in the mirror and all that sort of stuff, I think that's where it can swing. I always say there's a pendulum. It can swing so extreme one end, and then it swings so extreme the other end, as you said with the body positivity stuff. It's like that. That's not really true positivity in that front. But we're digressing a wee bit. It's the whole point is a mindset chat. But back to what you were saying then. So someone who's not in a good is in a negative headspace, for them to read motivational quotes, you're the hardest worker in the room, and they don't believe it, or they're not filling up to those actions. That's where there's a disconnect. And I think it is the same. I'm going to just round it off by saying I think I'm right and you're wrong, or I think we're agreeing with the same points, just in a different way. That the fact that
if you need to affirm something, what you're saying is I need to believe by a delusion, right? And I'm fat shaming. Right. Like fat shaming in essence is we're not buying into this idea that body positivity is a fucking whole thing and it shouldn't be called out. You know, there is egregious versions of that where people are just being mean and awful. I don't like that's a different thing. But when somebody's saying to you, look, I'm affirming my body positivity, what that essentially translates to is I have a delusion that this thing's all right and I want you to buy into it and I want you to accept it. And I'm like, no, I'm calling that out. Like, that's not how it works. I don't mean just be mean for the sake of it and be like, oh, fatty, you're rolling down the shops today. Nothing like that. But when you care about somebody and you can see that they've got more potential in themselves and they could do it better, and saying, hey, look, you're all right because things don't look well.
Is that compassion there?
I looked it up before we started.
Right, so let's get into the developing that mindset, no matter which kind of pillar that you're wanting to go through. Before the last thing before we do, can you tell us a time where you caught yourself in a not so great headspace? Can you remember a time? Because I feel I've only known you just shy of a year. Has there ever been a time in your life that jumps out?
In a negative headspace, as in
where you would maybe class that you're on the other side of this call that you helped, where you've been in someone else's shoes, where because you don't, you don't, no one's born with this, and this is the reason I want to ask someone who, I think if anyone who knows you will go, Gio's got your shit figured out. Never see Gio have a bad day, all this sort of stuff. But ultimately, we're all human, and we all started somewhere. And we went into that in your story. So if you're tuning into this episode, go back. I'll link it in the show notes to hear your whole story going through that. But what kind of time comes to mind when you weren't in a great space?
I remember it was the reason that I probably stopped drinking alcohol. I remember I'd sort of bought into this idea that, you know, I'd earned the idea to be able to cut loose and enjoy myself. And really what it was I didn't know what my purpose was. You know, I'd smashed the first 4. And I was like, right, what now? And I didn't know the next 2 parts, and that was what was missing. So I'd felt a bit lost. I'd felt like I'd worked so hard to nail it out the park, and I did in such tremendous fashion, and done it from, you know, my start line was so much further back. So you can imagine this rapid acceleration, aiming for this goal, not only hitting it, but hitting it in a way shorter time than anybody would have expected. And then, you know, people going, I don't know how you've done that, and feeling quite good about that. And then
as you're getting hyped up, everybody's like, brilliant. It's like that you're getting the positive affirmations at this point.
It was even to the point. It was even beyond that. Like people's disbelief. They were like, that isn't possible. Like it's not possible that you can do what you've done in that short a period of time. That's not normal. Like normal people don't do that.
What was it? Was it a financial target? Was it a number of properties? Was it the?
It was like you could attach any of those things to it. They were all metrics, but it was it was really the rate of change in terms of how rapidly I motored through it. They were like, that's not normal. Like they were seeing something that they couldn't believe, the rapid ascension. Like, and you could say, was it this, was it that? They were measuring it with all different metrics, but it was, this guy was starting from way back here. And if you imagined it would take 30 years to do it, and like by year 10, he's like, you know, sit there. Like, how's that possible? And these are the things that when you pick up the principles of mindset is that all I was doing was rapidly failing and rapidly learning, rapidly failing, because you will fail, and getting used to failure and getting comfortable with failure is a great thing. And the only failure is if you don't learn from your failure. So I was rapidly going through the processes of failing, seeking advice, asking people to better me. That was the whole idea of it. And when we were doing the first part of my story, that was essentially what I was describing. I was looking for people that were way further on down the road than me, and taking their failings, absorbing them in, going and trying it, failing, and then applying the things that they taught me so that I could rapidly speed up the process. So it wasn't anything special, despite what people thought. It wasn't special. It was just a mindset that I was locked into, that I could do it. I always had more self-belief than I had doubt.
I think it's something we definitely uncovered in the first episode, with you. Just kind of breaking down from kind of getting your first job to where it ended up. So what was it like then, not being in that, when all that sort of the lack of drive or lack of purpose, whatever you want to label it as, was that getting replaced with drinking?
Yeah, I mean, like, and the thing being is it was a case of, you know, it wasn't that I lacked the drive, I just didn't know where to put it. And it was like we discussed earlier, it's like, you know,
do I go for the next
property? If I got another 10 properties, it's going to change my life? No.
What's the point?
If I refurb another 5 properties, it's going to, you know, if I sell them, does it, you know, to make more money, is it going to, no, nothing, it's not going to change anything. So you go, well, right, what next? And ultimately that's what you wanted, that's what you're answering is that what I was saying to myself then that I didn't know at the time that I know now, is that like you want to grow and you've got no, like you're not in the conditions to grow, because the conditions in my life were in the first 4, not in the last 2. And that was where I was lost, because it was like, well, first of all, I didn't know that I didn't know the 5th and the 6th pillar.
Did you know the 4?
Not really, no.
Where did the lessons? Where have you kind of picked this up?
Well, as I was looking for the answers, I was stumbling across.
Oh,
like,
there's one.
I was I've done that.
Aye, there's 2.
So now you mention it. That's quite good. Certainty. I suppose I was looking for certainty and love. I've started a family. It seems quite loving, and then you go like, I need a bit of variety. So that would explain going to different parts of the world, trying different events, trying new things. But that's that one.
0.5 hits.
And then I'm like, right, and then significance. Obviously, people were feeding back, like, we're really impressed and annoyed what you've done, which is nice. And the external significance is also, there's an internal one where you feel like you're progressing. And I thought, yeah, I'm doing all right. And then it was like, if I do more of this, the effect is less and less and less. So it was like, there was diminishing returns.
First time buying a property, it's not the same as the 10th time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, I remember when I got paid my first sort of wage, and I was like, I've never had that feeling where I was in disbelief. I remember looking at the cash machine, I didn't even lift out any money. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to change the screen. I was like, wow.
300 quid or what was it?
I'm sure I was on 332 quid, and I went and got my first salary, and it was like, I can't remember exactly what it was. Like,
just the feeling of
it was like,
unlimited
it went
money.
from 300 quid to like thousands and thousands of pounds in my bank. I'd never had thousands of pounds in my bank ever. Like, and I actually went back and I put in the card again and got another receipt to check that this thing wasn't a mistake. And it was just that sort of feeling where I was like, wow. But what I was feeling was the monetary value was what I would have said it was at the time, but it was the huge progression that I'd felt. Like, that really was what was making me feel like I've made a massive step. And that's, again, the buzz that we try and feel, because we like progression, because progression's growth. So like when you're growing, you're feeling like you're developing, and that is the buzz that we want. It's just we attach it to money. But you now when it's like when you have money, you go, well, I can go and make more of it. It's not progressing me. It's like it's not got the same whoosh. So you need to seek that from somewhere else. And I didn't know, so I went out and had a look for it, and ended up figuring out all the things. But now, if I'd done this at the start, so say I was the young dude that, like, 17 looking for the answers, I didn't have a huge data bank of wisdom and experience other than my childhood. I was going into a new world of like what you do when you're growing up. So I didn't have any reference points. But what had happened was I'd had this massive sort of ascension in life with all this wisdom, like all this experience, and then was starting to actually take these principles and knowledge that others were teaching, and I'm like, that I know what that is, because that's like this, and it's that connection is now making it ultimately more powerful, because I points of reference when I'd failed, when I'd done well, how it felt, why it was important, and this was the connect after them was adding up. I'm like, I can see the picture. I can see it clearly. Where before it was just sort of, it was like a jigsaw puzzle, a bit here and a bit there. And
I didn't recognise that, but I don't know what that is there.
Like, I sort of was like, well, it seemed like I don't really know what this means, but I know that they're pieces. But when you had now all the pieces, you were putting them in together, and it was like, oh, that's how it goes. And when you go through that yourself, what happens is you're able to see someone else is going, oh, I can't get this piece in. No matter what I do, this piece won't go in. Like, right, I can see that, and try turning it that way, and they're like, it's like magic. I'm like, well, it's not. I've done exactly what you're doing.
Right. So let's get into some actual strategies and tips then. What was one that you had then? Let's start with one that you've got for.
Are we playing rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first, or are you just, am I going first?
You're the guest. Ladies go first and all that.
Okay.
So the idea here is, hopefully we can have a conversation about this.
Fucking fan on, baby.
Do you want me to turn this? I'll put it on.
Just sweating my backside off here. Right, so first one for me is vision.
Clear vision.
Right. If mindset is beliefs and perception about the real world, and we're using the car analogy, you need to know where you want to go, because you're steering a car, so you need to have a vision of where you want to go. Because if it's like driving in a car with no destination, you can drive round and round and round. You are driving, but you're not going anywhere.
So I had something similar. I had purpose, but how clear do you think the vision needs to be? Because I remember you. In fact, you were one of the first people that ever really challenged me on what the dream life would be, or what some of your dream goals were. And it was more the first time that anyone had pushed the boundaries of, like, everyone says the generic things of big house, nice car, and it's like, what type of car, what colour of car, what wheels, what's the interior like?
If I go in your house and turn to the left, what's there?
So that's how clear you think the vision needs to be?
I want you to, if your vision should be so clear that if you explained it to a blind person, they would draw a picture in their mind of what you have just described to them.
Why?
Like, because it's real. When you have a vision in your mind, and the more clear it becomes, it's the ultimate filter system of your life on what you should keep going at and what you should disregard. Right. So if you want, as a car analogy, say that you wanted a really nice car and that's all you've got. So let's say you do really well and you've got a budget of £100,000, you want to go and buy a car. You get that £100,000 and what do? You go, well, what can I buy? And you go, well, I can get this and I can get that and I can get that. And you're like, I don't know. Right, but if you've got, like, I want a black car with black leather interior, and I want the wheels to be anthracite grey, and I want the brake calipers to be black, and I want it to be a Porsche, and I want it to be a manual gearbox, and I want, when I open the door, I know what the sound is, right? But you know what you're working towards, right? Now imagine that's a car. Imagine you do that with your house. So if you imagine that you visualise, what we have inside us is the power to use our imagination that can create what it would be like if we were there. We can imagine it and we can feel. Our nervous system doesn't know the difference between the real world and our imagination. You can feel what it would feel like. And as we've discussed in the Mount Mindset calls, the biggest accelerator in your life is how you feel. So if you can imagine that amazing house, your ultimate dream house, and if you imagine that the door of that ultimate dream house is a grey door and the handle's on the left-hand side, so you know that that door opens from the left-hand side to the right, and as you walk in, you have this great vestibule area that lets in all the light because you've got glass side pillars on your door. And as that light comes in, you notice how the light reflects, and you have a table that you like to keep your car keys in, and there's a mirror there that you use. You can check yourself before you go out, make sure that you've not forgot to brush your hair. I'll not have that problem. And maybe fix the beard.
Fix the beards, yeah.
But, and if I explained that to you, I would say the clearer that you can make it, the more distinguished your visualization process becomes, which then creates a clearer and deeper feeling about how you would feel and how you would have it. And then that is think of the clearer your vision, right? So feelings are the accelerator pedal towards you taking action to get the vision in your future. So that accelerator pedal, the more clear that becomes, the harder you push down on that accelerator pedal. And then just like the car, rather than aiming all over the place, you know exactly what you're aiming for. So you hit the accelerator and you've got a clear line of where you're going. That is why you want ultimate clarity. That's why I want a nice car. What type? What engine size is it? What horsepower is it? Like, is it 4 seats, 2 seats? Is it convertible? Is it hardtop? And so on. Yeah. These are the things. That's why vision is really, really important.
What do you think? Because I think most people answering that question, it will be attached to something maybe materialistic, something maybe a monetary figure. How do you get people to kind of maybe see deeper than that? Is it just part of the game? Because very much like yourself, your vision wasn't exactly crystal clear when you started, but the more you get into it, the more you're consistently doing that as an exercise for yourself, it does get clearer and clearer. And that's something I think, if it's something I experienced with the gym, my vision was always one day have my own studio, I want a podcast, I want to be PTing, I want to be personal training, I want to be doing this, I want to be that, and started ticking all those boxes. It wasn't like I want to hit X amount of people, but that being in the back of my mind, that happened so quickly for me. I think it just then came with this crash, this flat feeling. And I think a lot of people will experience that with the the monetary side of things. Even if you look at like designer clothes and stuff like that, a lot of people have that. Yeah, I want to be in a nice outfit. I want to go on this holiday, and they go and it's like, what now? So what would your advice be to someone that keeps them on that path, keeps guiding them through that? Is that an exercise you need to do every 3 months, every so often?
Think about what you've described there is what people don't distinguish as the real thing that's happening versus the thing that they perceive that they're doing to get that. So the perception is if I have this nice outfit and designer clothes, it will make me feel like this. So what they're actually seeking is the feeling, right? And that feeling is signified by what they've bought. So they believe that it's always about buying and buying and buying and buying and buying, because what they're doing is they're trying to buy the feeling again.
Aye.
Right? So that's what they're trying to do. What they don't realise is they want the feeling that they're progressing. And then when you open that up, what you can say is you can progress. You can progress in things other than money. And if you do buy all the outfits in the world, then what? Like, what happens then? Like, let's imagine you've got all the outfits and all the designer clothes and you try them on and you feel great and they don't have the same impact. What would you want then? You go, so you imagine it, what would it be like? And this is why there's a real power in knowing someone that knows the art of mindset that walks you through it, because it's like having a sound engineer that's like, oh, we're tweaking where you are and what you do, and they're like, yeah, we figured it. And what they're doing is they're feeding it back to you. Go, well, try this and try that. You're like, it doesn't feel quite right. Well, let me just try that bit. You go, oh yeah, that's better. And it's that sort of fine tuning. And what you have is generally what happens with people that do these things is that they generally have a materialistic goal. And what they're really saying is, I want progression, and the way that I can most easily measure it is material things, what I can buy, how much I can earn, what I've got, which is not a bad thing to do, but detach. These things that you buy are just sort of highlights of what you're actually doing, which is seeking these things.
It's almost the byproduct.
Yeah, it's the way that it's your scorecard, not the actual the thing that you're going through. The thing that you're going through is this progression through life where you get certainty, uncertainty, love, significance, and then you ultimately want growth. Because like I would say most people, like, they talk about the 99%. The 99% are still trying to figure out the first 4%. And that's what they're doing, and then they end up coming out with things like, just for an easy life. And what they're saying is, like, I can't be bothered figuring this out anymore, so I'll just settle for what I can get. And then they come along with all the BS. Well, if I just affirm my positivity, I'm all right with being fat, or something like that, which is, people like us don't get it. Employed people never get ahead. The working man never, it's all the same thing. Like, it's all the same thing. And that's what I mean about, like, as we discussed about the fat shaming. What they're doing is they're saying, look, rather than me working hard and getting my best version of myself, let me go and affirm that I'm actually all right the way I am. And it's like, well, look, we can see that there's more in you. There's more in you. And why you should put yourself forward is, see the things that are hard, you will feel the most growth from. You will get so much out of it, because it's not about the designer stuff and it's not about material. You will feel so proud of yourself, and that is a feeling that is ultimate.
Can't be bought.
Right? And if you could feel that right now and feel positively affirming your fucking fatness, that there is no way that you will ever accept that one when you can feel that one. Right? And then it becomes, are you ready to decide? Do you want it? Because you can have it. Right? It's going to be tough, but it is the ultimate feeling. A
lot of people frown their noses up, and I was one of these guys for a long time. The whole goal setting and stuff like that, I'd done it in work, and I think because I was conditioned in that corporate environment of how you said it, and okay, we steer towards these targets, I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
Deep down, that's the disconnect to where it is. So, I agree. I had purpose down there. I think the whole part of you doing this exercise, the clearer the better. Absolutely.
I think you like what you're saying there, because purpose is what you aim for, and using your vision is how you start to, like, because what I would caveat is that people write a goal, and when they go off track because they have a shift, they end up going, well, this thing doesn't work. And it's like, well, just because your goal was this then, it doesn't mean you can't keep adjusting your goal. And the purpose is what you feel when you start to achieve the things that are in your vision. So they go quite hand in hand, but the one that becomes first is the vision, which then you can
Leads on.
you can know, because you'll feel purpose as you achieve more things within that vision.
That's how mine's changed. Mine's came that I just want to get in a gym and help people, and then that became I want to have my own place and then help people. Can I help more people by doing something remote online, podcasting, online coaching, and that's where the doors open up. And I think that's the key with it. Just couldn't make it. Don't be too rigid with it. Allow it to flow and have a bit of flexibility.
Well, the thing that you've got there is that what you're describing is you're describing a vision that you had and weren't getting hung up on the particular details of how to get it, and that allowed a flow. Because what happened is you had it's like we call it the free market, and investing is the free market will figure it out, which is you wanted your own place. Well, you needed a certain amount of people to make your own place viable. Right, and the free market will figure it out. Yeah. And it's the same thing. Well, how can I reach most people? We go, well, the free market will figure it out, because you need to do X to get this amount of people helped, and the free market will work it out, because what it does is it feeds back what you need to get what your vision is.
Yeah. No, I like that. What's yours? Have you got any kind of visions that obviously you'll have one where you're at just now, but what stands out over the last couple of years where your vision started as something and then shaped into something completely different?
I can tell you exactly what it was. Like, it's as clear as you are in front of me.
Go for it.
I was sitting we have a corner couch. It was a Friday night. My missus always said this. She's like, people don't understand how hard you work. She's like, I see you on a Friday night at 11 o'clock sitting working away on something. She's like, I can see that you are so focused and so consumed with what you're doing. It's like your mind is whirring at 100 miles an hour. And I would remember typing it out because I was doing Jordan Peterson's exercise, and I was going through these questions about trying to find out what it was that I was doing. And I remember thinking to myself, I'd stopped drinking, or I was thinking about stopping drinking at the time. I wasn't happy with what role model I was being when I was drinking. And that was really playing on my mind, because one of the things that I learned from my childhood was how not to be. So I didn't want to become what I was around in my childhood. And I felt that an element of that was creeping in. And I thought, I'm not prepared I've taken this responsibility as a dad, right? And I take it pretty seriously. And I'm not perfect, but I'm in charge, and I'm not prepared to give my bullshit any room or tolerance here, that I've deserved it, I earned it, everybody drinks, you should all have a good time. I was prepared to sacrifice all of that to be a better role model. But I didn't know how to do it. And I remember thinking to myself, my boys are at an age where they are like sponges. They're taking everything in, they're picking up energy, they're picking up what you're doing, they're seeing what you're doing.
Starting to create real memories.
Yeah, and I thought, they are becoming, the men that they'll become will be big parts of what they see at this point in their life. How do I do a good job at that? And it was terrifying that I thought, I don't think I'm going to be that good at doing this job, because I thought to myself, right, I'm pretty hot-headed, I'm a maverick. It's not like I have this innate ability to get great results, but teaching people wasn't my forte, and I've not a clue how to teach people. How is it that if I can't teach an adult, how can I possibly teach kids that are, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the age that we're at the time? I think George would have been 7, Ted would have been 4, and I'm like, I've not a clue how to do this. So it was big, and I thought, I need to do something. So I didn't know how. I knew what my vision was. My vision was to be a great teacher for my boys, and I thought, if I ever have an untimely death, I'm leaving nothing behind. All this wisdom for what? Right? The money will last, and but that's not what's going to make them have a great life. Giving them the tools and the teaching. Yeah. Like, I learned this from somebody that wanted me to know this, and I was like, that's what I should be doing. It's not about going out and making more money, or having another car or another house or whatever it may, or another holiday. These are the things that are really important. And ironically, this showed up years later when I was doing the mindset stuff, and I asked the kids, what do you think makes being a great dad? Not one thing they said was about money. And like, that time period was 5 years. And it's so for people out there that think you can't do something in a very short space of time that is deeply meaningful and deeply profound in your life, I would challenge that every day and twice on Sunday, because within a 5 year period, I went from feeling lost, terrified that I wouldn't be able to be the best dad I could be, not knowing where to start or how to do it, and feeling the daunting feeling that I might not be a great role model. That shifted in less than 5 years.
Yeah. That's powerful.
So it was going through that process of sitting down on a Friday night. People are out in the piss, they're out in the lash. I was one of them, right? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to fill in this. I'm going to fill these questions. I'm going to look for the best people out there that might have any answer that I can use, or any question or any morsel of information where I can make a start. Then the first thing I did was started reading them books at night. So I'll do the bedtime story. I'll read you books. And I started looking for books. And then it was like what we described with you. I knew the vision. I didn't know the tools would arrive. I didn't know where they would come from. The free market was going to take care of it. I started going, well, I need to tighten myself up. How do you do it? Who's good at it? A Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, right? Let's see what he does. He's wrote some books for his leadership, right? Let me read them. I told a story about, there was no great kids' books, right? Well, I need a kids' books. It's great. I'll get one of them. I started reading them, like Bear Grylls survival stuff, because it'd be cool as a boy hearing about adventure and how to survive and how to cross a river. That's where it started, and then ended up getting the books from Jocko Willink's Way, The Warrior Kid. Started reading them, and then that became our thing. So before that, I would do the bath. I made it a thing that would always be, bath the boys. That was our time together, and then became bedtime, and then bedtime reading the books, and then that developed into, I was listening to how they learned, and then I was helping me teach them the things that in a way that they would land and make sense for them. And that infinitely was going to help me help anybody, because if I can understand how to learn how somebody learns, and I can do it at this age range, then I can do, and I'm here and they're there, and then I can do everything in between. That I thought, this is worth pursuing. Yeah. And that was the thing.
Where the self-doubt was obviously, or self-belief in who you were and the role model that you were, was just getting narrower and narrower, and then it turned into confidence then?
Yeah, because what I had was I had a list of things that I knew that I was wanting to cut out because I didn't think they were good. But the list that I had, that what I should be doing that was going to be really good, I was like, I don't know what that is. So it was quite daunting, in that I didn't have any answers. Now, whenever I tried anything before, it was pretty easy to find the answer, because someone went, oh yeah, I'm going to go and do that. I've done this and I'm pretty good at it. Here's how I did it. So it was like, boom. But there wasn't a bookshelf that said, I didn't think that was a really good role model, and I want to be a really good role model. And if you want to try it, here's the list of things. I was like, I've not got a clue, because they were really particular to me. Like, how do you take someone that was a maverick, great results, came from, humble beginnings? Everyone would have said there was not a chance in hell that they'd been able to do it. Not only done it, but done it in a rapid period of time. Has all the outward signs of being just the Midas touch, but then you now go, well, this Midas touch is fucking escaped me, because I've got I'm touching it, nothing's happening. And that's when you started to go, right, what do you do? And that, again, the answers come, right? Don't get hung up in the details.
You said something there that I think is very important to emphasise there, and I'll bring this back to like the fitness thing, because a lot of people will know what they don't want to have or what they don't want to be doing, whether it's the quote unquote unhealthy food, it's the takeaways, and sometimes that's enough. That is enough to get started. Like you said, you didn't know where to start, but you knew what you wanted to do less of, and that spurs that is a step forward. A lot of people say that is a step back, and it isn't by any means necessary.
I agree with you, because the list of things that I knew, that I knew what was. It's really clear, simple. You go, right, what if I could have anything? What would it be? Right, and I had the list of what I wanted, and then I had to measure that against what I was currently doing. So I had a list of things I had to remove, no matter how hard they were. I had a list of things that were taking me away from that outcome.
Can you remember what was some of the hardest things?
Like the whole concept of like going out and, essentially drinking. I mean, people would say that it wasn't that bad, but I didn't like it. I didn't, I got into this idea that I could go out and party, and I could go out, 2-3 nights and go out, casinos and win money, and it was great bringing home loads of money, and it was fun. But when you're coming in pissed, I'm like, how does that look like? my boys don't care about the money. They're like, you know, dad's hungover, falling asleep on the couch. And I thought, I don't want to be him. Like, that's not who I want to be. But then I had this thing where I really enjoyed doing it. I really enjoyed going to the casino. I really enjoyed being sort of the party animal. I really enjoyed that side.
You get the dopamine hit, you get the rush, you get all the good endorphins fed into it. Same when you get that chocolate food. If you compare it to how food engineers, it tastes so good, but a couple of hours later, it doesn't sit well.
Well, you go, like, your identity was at the time the party animal, the go-getter, essentially the alpha male, extrovert, life and soul of the party, you know. And people going, what do you mean you're not going out? Like, yeah, you obviously, like,
you're normally paying for everything. Fucking get your arse out.
You know, they're like, it's a good time because they love that whole, what they were saying was this, who they would love to be, you know. And I was filling that role, and it was great because you're like, this is amazing, and I never thought I'd be able to do it, and I was doing it, and then you go, this isn't the, like, if I lived my life for 20 years just like we did earlier, would I be happy? I was like, no, because what this would cost me in terms of all the opportunities where I could have done something deep and meaningful and grew personally and been there for somebody else and served others, like your kids and your wife. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way this looks.
Very, very valuable. Tons of value there in terms of the lesson. So first one there was then vision, clear vision. The clearer the vision, the better, as you can see. The next one, so back to me then. I put something similar to purpose, but we'll move over that one. There has to be some element of hardship that allows you to work on the skill of discipline. Discipline, consistency is those buzzwords that you hear all the time, from mindset, from working out, from trying to become successful. And I think there has to be something there that challenges you, that allows you to get those reps in and
so like, give me an example of hardship. So you need hardship to develop discipline. What would be an example of that?
Well, this is where it can be very person dependent, because if I look at the walks of life, I was looking the other day, it was 372 clients has came through my training over the years that I've been coaching so far. And I was looking at, kind of some of the names, like sometimes you kind of move on. I was like, I forgot. We had a 12-week period together where I was coaching people, and I was going through all those names, and the variety of differences where I had to start with people has been some of the most powerful lessons I've learned as a coach, and how to be able to navigate that. So I know for some people, just getting outside and getting steps in, because they're where their belief system is and all that, and that is a third point. Maybe be better starting there, but anyway, we're here.
So what was the hardship?
Hardship was getting the steps in.
Why is that hard?
So that was hard for them. They couldn't believe they could do it. Couldn't do it. There was
how many steps you asked them again?
6,000 steps. 6,000 steps I started with.
You've got
some
to
clients.
be
No, I kid you not. And a lot of people, with the clientele that I was getting off the gym floor,
paraplegic?
No, they just had you need to think, some people have 30 years of life that's just been conditioned towards this lack of movement, and a byproduct of that is more body fat, more tight joints, sorer joints, just less energy, because what are they doing? Their body doesn't require.
You got a real hardship one.
Well, this is where it grows.
You're a really nice coach.
This is where it can grow, and this is the compassion side of me. This is my empathy side.
You're way too nice.
So here's what I found out, and when I was working through with some of these clients, I was like, come on, like 10,000 steps was a buzzword. And luckily enough, I think the mentors that I was following at the time, I heard them phrase this. It's like their experience, like you said, you look who's ahead of you in the journey. And I remember this story so vividly. It's like, I had a client that came to me, and it was, the way it was explained was, she knew she was lying about doing the workouts, and he told her a new one. He went down this one, like, come on, you should be better than this, like tore right into her. And rather than that client coming back to him, she ended up not working out with him, went off. And he says, I wish I could go back to that client, because the later part of my personal training career, if I handled that conversation better and kind of met in the middle, I probably would have helped her still working out to this day. And that stuck with me. So when I started getting the challenges, I put down 8,000 steps for a client. It's like, look, so I can never do that. I'm only doing 3,000 now. And I was like, well, let's try for the first week and understand what the challenges were with that. And then that's where I'd work with them as a coach. And the reason I'm telling this story is because it became so powerful for one person that stands out, where we tried, and that's like, right, let's try 5,000. I couldn't get 5,000. We started on 3,500 steps. And I was like, right, your goal is to get every single day this week, 3,500 steps. Right, cool. So it was 500 more steps than what he was averaging. Week 1, 7 days, 3,500 steps. Fucking brilliant. Well done. 7 days, you've proved to yourself that you can commit to something. Let's try 4,000 now. Let's try 4.5. Let's try 5. So much so that I stopped working with this guy after 5 months, and he tagged me in a post at the end of the year. I think he totaled something like 3.5, 4 million steps, because he was so caught up and he was so obsessed with like hitting this number that he was able to do that. And he would have been able to do that if I don't believe it. I think he can always draw up to conclusions if his hard had to start with get that 10,000 steps, because it would have looked like fail, less, not fail, hit it once, fail, not hitting it. So I was trying to create that enforcement, that positivity.
Yeah, it's a good way to be. It's a good tool.
Now, an argument could be there. What did those conversations look like when you failed? And I think that's an important conversation to cross. But I think if
how do you handle failure?
Hard, but it depends what kind of mood you caught him in. The guy was neurodiverse. He had I can't remember the form of autism it was, but that was the challenge. Like, he'd went to so many PTs and got sacked off because of how he was as a character. And I thought, what a shame, man. This guy's really trying and wants to learn squats, wants to learn deadlifts. Anyone can fucking do these exercises. So I wanted to be the coach that helped him. So I think that in my mind, the last thing for me was, I don't want him thinking this is just going to be another failed PT attempt. And I think that's how I took that approach with him. And so this is so back to the point, some people, the hardship may have to look so ridiculously easy. But I think as you start working up the consistency, that's where it compounds and that's where you build momentum.
I still haven't seen the hardship bit.
You don't see it? No.
What's the hardship?
So, in terms of building discipline, well, that's where he built.
There's no hard. Like,
so do you not believe like he built the skill of discipline? He worked on that skill of discipline.
He built consistency, but there was no hardship. It wasn't like he fucking stood in an IED and blew his leg off and then like learned to walk again.
Right.
Hardship to me is like an event took place that really knocked you off course. You overcame that hardship to then achieve something. Like, I get the achievement bit, which is like right, look, you're at 2,000 steps and getting you to 10,000 steps is too big a jump. So let's take you up, where let's get you something that you can hit. Right. And I want you to develop that muscle of, right, you don't believe you can hit it and I believe that you can. Right, but let's get something that you can reach so you can then begin to understand that you can reach targets that are higher than you think. And then we'll keep cranking up. That's consistency. I don't see the hardship.
Maybe the choice of words, hardship, isn't the right way of doing it, but from in terms of developing a stronger mindset.
I get it. I was looking for the hardship because I'm thinking to myself, like, would you identify, what I was thinking you were going was, someone has an event or some hardship that you can identify that you're going to then leverage that hardship as the lever that gets them to build the discipline, as in, like, right, look, that's a very fair point. Let's lever it across. Like, because this has happened, and we want to shrink that and use that as your springboard, and we're going to lever that to take you to this result. That's what I thought. Maybe I misunderstood.
Nah, that's probably choice of words, but you're right. That is also an important skill. Like I know your stance on trauma and the victim card. I think that's where the hardship, the situation gets abused, and it's like, why do you think people do that? Why do you think people play that card? Do you think it's because they miss the love component and that's how they build connection?
They want to feel significant. So if you're a victim, people pander to you so they feel significant. It's the fourth one. It can be the third one, which is you want to feel loved. But it could be both. Like, so what happens is you get attention. So you play the victim, the list of things, my trauma, I've got PTSD, daddy didn't get me that puppy. So I've had trauma since like primary 2. No one knows what I've went through, which is, let me make it out to be bigger than it is. Let me find something that happened that I didn't like, let me call it trauma. Let me say I still remember it, call it PTSD. And they just attach these labels that get compassion and essentially attention, which then makes them feel significant or feel like cared for or loved. So rather than developing themselves, which is the harder route, they take the simpler or the easier route, which is victimhood, which then gets to the same feeling, but the feeling's much more diminished because they need to keep going through. They need to become more of a victim. They need to become more deluded to keep the feeling going because it diminishes. The harder it is, the harder you go, the greater and stronger that feeling becomes. So that's why I'm so hard on don't fucking do this, because it's like a drug addiction, you know, because it's like a heroin. You need more and more and more of it to get the same hit. Where like no, there's a road that's tough and it's hard. It is the ultimate hit, because when you get there, you get to keep it because it's yours. You earned it, and you got it all, and it's yours to have, and you deserve it. And that's the ultimate, because that gets you the significance and the self-love. And there's definitely going to be definitely be certainty that you can do it, and there's going to be the uncertainty that's hard, and sometimes it's going to be a challenge. So you hit all four by doing that road, and that's the ultimate. That's where you're like, oh, I love this, and that's why a guy tagged you in, because what you done was develop the path for him that he now knows the path of. Right, I'm uncertain that I can get the results. I'm certain if I push hard enough, I can do it. I can love myself that I actually done it, and that I've got significance, that I can look back at the numbers and go, you know what, you should be proud of yourself. So you might not have known, like, I didn't know consciously the 4 pillars. You're nailing the path.
Free market and all that.
Free market figures it out.
Free market figures out. So you strike me as somebody that's always had a pretty good pulse on discipline, work ethic for sure, from the upbringing that you had when we dived into your previous story. How would you communicate someone who is maybe their discipline's wavered on a weekly basis? What would you do to start with them? The thing that they're developing is almost always the decision comes that there's an easier option or a harder option. Right, so ultimately, when someone lacks discipline, right, what happens when they lack discipline? So let's play out like where it starts, where it ends, because people are like, discipline, it's the same as like you were like, write goals, fucking goals, don't write goals. And it's like, right, so if you write goals, you get a vision. If you get vision, you get your purpose. You get a filter system. When you do it, you can build a path of what you want to achieve, what you should work on, what you should disregard, and what you develop is a sense of growth. Right, so that's why goals are a pretty good thing to do. But if somebody goes, it's just about writing your goals, you're like, fuck you. Fuck you and your goals. I've tried them, they're shit. I don't believe in them, because no one's explained, right, if you do goals, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, here's what you'll notice, here's what to pay attention to, here's what you'll do if you get it. And you might go, well, you know what, nobody explained it to me. Now that you go, now you explained it like that, it's maybe worth a go. You know, so that's what you do. So like discipline is, if you lack discipline, what happens is you take the easier option rather than the harder option. If you take the easier option, what's likely to most happen in your life is you're not getting the results that you want. Right? You probably don't look the way you want to look. You don't feel the way you want to feel. You don't see yourself as who you'd ideally want to see yourself as. And that'll show up in your results financially, your relationships, how you see yourself in the mirror, how fit you are, and so on. So they have lots of names, but the process is you're taking the easier option rather than the harder option. A great example you came up with was, let's pick something that is just beyond what you think is possible, but reachable, and then let's build that process that you can start to know that you can take the harder option and it's worth it. So that's the first thing that you do, is let's take the harder option, but you can just get there. Like, and this is what your coach was saying, is the guy wishes he went back and spoke to that person, as he would say, look, right, I know that you're bullshitting, because look, we've all been coached, we all know what it's like. You probably hate that you're lying to yourself, you're probably not getting the results you want. Like, let's get the cards on the table, let's find something that you can do, because when you start to know that you can do it, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to feel better and you want to do more of it. So let's get that, right? So let's work out what that would be. And that what you're doing is you're saying, look, I know that you're still taking the easy option. Let's build something where you can start taking the hard option. And after doing that enough, there is now no option. You will take the hard option, because you ultimately will feel better about who you are by taking that path. So that's what you want to develop. And that has, you know, that can be that framework is in money, finance, investing, fitness, any goals, and so on. You know, so it's applicable everywhere. Yeah. But that's what the model looks like. Good way to round that point up. Right, next one that you've got. What are we on, number 2? Second. Some of these might actually cross over. Action. Action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So action is always
self-advice.
always favour taking action than inaction. And the reason that is so important is that the easier option is inaction. And you'll get these fucking pessimists like, well, what about the time where it's better to sit in the fence? Right, okay, maybe that's the case 1 in fucking 100 times, right? But if there's an action to take it. If there's an direct action, take it. If there's direct action, take it. And the filter system is goal, vision, purpose, clarity in where you're going. And you take the action that's constantly keeping you on that line. What you want to do is constantly be on that line. And even if the action is, I'm off the line and the actions get back on the line, good, right? If you're still on the line, take another step, good. If it's a sideways step, good, because it's action, you're keeping the momentum high. And because life's going to come up and you're going to need to sidestep.
So what's that look like in an example? Like if you relate to someone you've helped or someone, or even yourself, like what did that series of actions played out? Like even if you maybe go back to...
Right, the one mistake that I would say is when you get something that makes you want to take a bump in the road. So I had a bump in the road where they were saying you can't buy any more houses for a certain amount of time. I think it was 6 months. Don't go and buy a Lamborghini, because that's what I did. So I would avoid that. It was action. Was it the right one? I'm sure I could have thought of a better one. Right. So that would be one that you would do. Great place to be. Champagne problems and all that, but like it was taking action. The worst thing.
Taking action on what though? Like the desire that you had.
That was wanting progression. So rather than buying a house,
right.
I thought I'll go and buy a supercar, and I'll wake up, I'll go and buy a convertible white pearlescent supercar with a V10 engine. Because what else do you do after you've made a fry up on a Saturday? So
that's really what it was. It was the feeling.
It was just like, well, what do I do now?
This is
I'll progress. But I didn't get the progression that I was looking for.
Was your visions associated with that then at the time? Do you think that's why?
It's probably just an impulsive decision.
Yeah.
Because I liked fast cars. I liked the whole. It was just that taking back to your childhood. I mean, who would want a big V10 engine going through an underpass? Under a flyover, the roof down. I still remember driving through it and hearing this V10, and it was like I was an 8-year-old kid. It was like, whoa, it was great. But I mean, like most things, the whole buying materialistic things, that had a shelf life. And like don't want to keep buying more and more supercars. There's guys that have done it, but I realised that I was on the wrong path. So my action was get back on the path. What should I be doing? And that was where I learned. Right, look, I need to. It's great and it's cool, and people love it. And people think it's amazing, and people will give significance for it, and people will think that give you love and attention. That is great, but I was like, I'm off path. My path is this one, and that is off. And that was an experience where I was like, I knew that I took the wrong step. It was action, and it wasn't the wrong step as in like it was detrimental. It was just I knew that I wasn't on the path that I should have been on.
Is inaction sometimes action? It seems like a wee bit of a word twister.
Like an example of like I will relate it to your fitness industry. So a client comes to you, or you're training, or like say we are training for an event. I'm like, right, come on, we'll train for an event, and you pull your back, and you go, well, I've went to the doctor, says take 6 weeks off, and you take 6 weeks off, then like you're just like vegetating. Well, I would be like, we'll go and find something else to do. Like either train around it, if you can't train around it, go and learn something else. Keep active, keep taking action.
Like the step towards whatever so back to your point of the vision. The step closer to that vision, whatever it is, it has to be a step forward. Like
I want to fly a fighter jet, and I want to fly the fighter jet that goes up and you can see the clear blue line, sort of the dark blue, which is the line between space and our atmosphere.
You'd be a certain weight for that.
I hope not.
Yeah, you're fucked.
I hope not. So they go on an extreme cut. And I would like to fly a fighter jet, and I'd like to break the sound barrier. I'd like to go Mach 2. So I've been on a few flying lessons. So like, say something happened and I was like, right, I can't do anything, but these are my options. I would go and pursue something that was in line with the vision, because I think that would be cool. I think that'd be a cool thing to do. But it's there in the background in the event. And if I need to temporarily step off that line for whatever reason, then I've got something I can go and put my attention into. And I've got lots of things that I do. And learning about mind, learning about how we see things, learning about perception, learning about hermetic principles, the keys to the universe, how the whole thing's created. So they're really, really deep topics, and they take a lot of thinking power. But when my day's done, I like to go and weirdly absorb myself in stuff that, my wife will go, this is really heavy watching. So at night,
this calms my mind.
I'll put a video in because I'm fascinated. I'm taking it in, and we see George, and George is to the point of obsessive level focus. He's just like you, because when he just can keep taking in information, and she's like, I can't take any of this in. She's like, it's too much, too deep, too hardcore, and I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
I love
like,
it.
how did they levitate 50-ton rocks and then lay them in it? And she's like, it's fucking 10 to 1 in the morning. When are you shutting off? I'm like, this is great stuff to dream about.
It gets crazy dreams. No, good. So I did have taking action, but I done it more from building up confidence within yourself. So back to the self-belief part. This is the kind of the last one that I had here. So I think, again, back to how we opened up this podcast, a lot of people have self-doubt, self-belief in themselves that they can't do something. And I think back to some client examples, and sadly, the environment, the people around them, pulled them down, which was a big crux on them not being, I guess, quote unquote, successful on their fitness journey. And when I was thinking about why to put this one in, someone came into mind who had to have the real kind of scare in his late 50s, had to get a triple bypass and all that, and was really shook up and was like, fuck man, I want to be here for my kids and all this sort of stuff. So he had a strong purpose, very clear vision. Yep. He had all these things going for him. He's like, right, I'm going to reach out because I need help with this. I have no idea what to do. And he came to me, and this is where I realised how having very little self-belief or combined with the right environment around you, doesn't matter what you're doing, if that environment's not right, if there's no self-belief there, then you're fighting fire with fire. It's so hard to we're butting heads constantly. So
what were you butting heads on?
So it was, I can't do that. It's like, right, okay, let's find something you can. And I was taking the same approach that I did earlier on. I was like, right, I know this is scary. I know we need to start super, super small. Like I think he had to walk to a lamppost and back every day, and even that became challenging. So we started with mobility work, and I got some positive feedback at the start. It's like, I feel so much better already. It's like, cool, hold on to that feeling. I don't want you to just go for it, but I want you to believe that through these little movements, these will compound over time. And they were great when we were here, or it was great when we were here working one-to-one. As soon as he went home, the wife was in his ear, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be. And I hate the whole, as we age, or even for women, it's like, oh, you need to be fragile, or you can't lift that, or watch your back, watch this. It's like, without any resistance in life, we're not going to build that callus up. And this was the self-belief part. Like, he was coming in here with very little self-belief, and I'd just done enough to get him believing a tiny bit in himself, and he was going home, and this was getting picked apart. And this is I think it was a marriage that I think they were together 30 plus years, the whole life together, from their teens to their late 50s. So I'm the small fry here, and I'm not going to be listened to as much, but try to get him believing himself was a real toughie. And self-belief is a hard thing, but through action, through following through in things you're going to do, I think you get a lot of confidence from that, and you can build up a lot of self-belief in that.
What did you think was if someone is in that environment with all the clients that you've had and the experience that you've gathered up, and they're in that environment, something that they would find hard to get away from, what do you think works?
I think to change the environment, or
say that you can't change the environment. You can't change the external environment. All you can change is the internal environment in them. So it's like one of the famous stories I read was Jerry Coffey. He was in the Hanoi Hilton was in there for 7 years and 9 days. The second longest Vietnam prisoner of war. He was in a cell that was 2 foot by 6 foot and had 16-foot concrete walls with broken bottles on the top of it. Wasn't allowed to communicate with any of the other inmates. And I'm like, right, as far as environment goes,
Can't change.
this is shit.
Aye.
This is really shit. You're malnourished, you're not well fed, you're being tortured, you're being interrogated, you're being mentally abused, you're being physically abused, and you don't have any social contact, and you don't even get to see daylight, and you're in a cell that you can't move in. It's like a upright coffin. How are you dealing with that environment? So they studied what he did, because they were like the 2 guys that they brought back. So there was 3 guys that they brought back. One ended up being an alcoholic. The other one never ever got out of the mental institute. They just couldn't deal with it. And Jerry went on to have a successful business, go and do all these talks and speeches, and then went and helped countless other people with how he handled that. So his environment for 7 years and 9 days was one of the worst environments. So imagine what your client got. Like I always see things from the point of view that somebody's getting worse than me.
Yeah.
How are they dealing with it? How are they doing it? So that's why I lack the empathy when someone who is in a better environment's going, I can't do anything about this.
So funny you say this, it's just brought actually a wee memory in a conversation I had with him. Because right at the start there was a lot of nervousness. I was like, I don't think I can do any of this. Like, and I remember having the conversation about the forks. Like, well, what happens if you don't? Like, how does the future life? And the thing that I picked up on in one of his first things was because he wants to be there for his daughter's wedding, and that was the thing that I tried to get him to hold on to. That was the belief part. It's like, right, if you don't believe in yourself, then like, what about the others around you? What about like what it's like for them if you're no longer here? Very morbid, very fucking dark conversation. I remember trying to be that as the hook, but it didn't last long enough for.
That's where my lack of caring about how somebody, like, I'll use that against them.
And
like, I would say, right, so here's your choice, Bob. We'll call your guy Bob.
What's his name?
Right, so Bob, you're in an environment that's controlling you. You're letting it control you, and you're listening to your wife, right? And your wife's killing you. Because see, all the things that you've done up to now is why you needed that bypass, right? For listening to people outside of your head, right? And you're ready to not be there for your kids because you're deciding not to change that perception of that environment. You're deciding that, right? Or you can make a better decision. You can stop your bullshit talking about how you can't because you've listened to somebody else that's bollocks. I've seen that you can, right? So here's your choice. You either go and be there for your daughter and your kids, and you really want it, or you listen to that. You get to pick, right? You get to pick that, and you don't need to do anything, or you need to choose that. There's no in between. You either want that enough that you're prepared to do anything it takes to get there, or
do you know this is what I find really challenging about the fitness scene, the healthier life, the more independence. Our standards are pretty low because we got all these great things that allows us to get by. We can still eat, we can still function, we can drive, we can wheelchairs, we got all these, and they're great tools. There's great things that we've created, human civilization, but because we can get by, it becomes like, well, I can still be there for her. I'm still here, and the compound effect of not doing it doesn't really creep up until it becomes almost too late.
Yep.
That's the hard thing to get through to folk. And I agree. Your conversation, like, that may have been. I actually was finding myself getting more direct, and I was like, well, this isn't like me. I'm normally like more on the other side of the people pleaser, the empathetic, and we had, like, I remember one session you walked in ready to quit, and we had a good 45-minute going back and forth, and I was very direct in that. He goes, right, I'll be back here tomorrow. I was like, okay.
And the thing being is like when people give in, you tend to find that, like, when people are giving in to other people in their life, they generally need a big shock, right? So talking reason into them doesn't work because somebody else has got more hours of the reason.
Nice.
Like, you just can't compete with it. So you need and they're like, what the fuck was that? And what you need to attach is the pain of continuing to do what you're doing and listening to this environment. and the huge lever of what you could get if you choose to take the harder road that you find more difficult, but will ultimately get you the life that you would feel gratifying and have purpose in. You get to choose, right? You can keep doing this and do nothing, but you're going to be in a box way earlier than you think. Yeah. Or you can take the hard path and it's on you, right? So see, when you, whatever day that you die, and if it's way earlier, know that you were the one that didn't have the backbone, that gave in, that listened to your inner bitch, listened to your wife, listened to all the people that were talking you down. Take responsibility for it, right? Because it is you. Right, don't come out with the excuses and cop-outs and all that sort of stuff. I'm telling you that because if you came to me and says, how do I get there? And I'm telling you how.
Why do you think people have their backs up against that initially, that approach?
Just fucking don't like the truth.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Because what happens is...
No, because like, see what you just said there, I was just thinking like, that would be something that someone automatically goes, oh, look at you got all your shit figured out. Like, why is it always the old white male that's fucking...
How do you think we got our shit figured out? Do you think we were shat out the women, got it figured out? No, what's happened is all the experience, all the wisdom, all the hardships, I could have chose the same life that you've got and made different decisions. The reason that you're here in front of me is you want to make better decisions because you want better outcomes. They come from choices. I'm telling you what choices you need to make and you don't like it because your ego is going, I don't want to take responsibility for it, or how can I answer back my wife, or how can all this shite. It's all your ego, because what you're saying is, right, I have gave in, I didn't have the backbone, I didn't step up, I didn't take the actions I should have, I could have done this earlier, sooner, better. I didn't, because I fucking didn't I had no backbone. And now it's took a triple bypass surgery for me to get my thumb at my arse. And now I'm wanting to collude into the idea of the same fucking thing, like body positivity. I want to buy into, it's frail and it's old and you shouldn't do this and all that shit. It's like, bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. What's happened is you haven't made the decision. There's two things that happen here. If you can detach your ego and take responsibility that you could have made better decisions, accept full responsibility that you could have done a better job, right? That might be hard to take, but it gives you a power. And that power is that when you also accept that you had the choices and fucked them up, it also gives you the power to make better choices that you can do now to improve rapidly.
Compound.
Right, that's your choice. That's the deal. Right, but it's going to cost you your ego getting a bit of a bruising. What one do you want? And the easy way to think of it is, what's your life look like if you don't do it? What does your life look if you do it? And you do hurt a wee feelings, you do step in some toes, you don't listen to people you've always listened to. What does that look like? And that's when people... Because what it is they're daunted. You're changing what they know, they're changing the familiar, they're changing how they need to deal with the people that are in the environment, and like, that's a fucking big task. You go, well, is your life worth it? Because ultimately that's what it is. Is your life worth it? Because you're killing yourself by not doing it. And if you don't care about your daughter, then fine, keep doing it and die and she'll be left here without you. Or if you want to be there for her, get your balls out your wife's purse and man up and get on with it. Like, then that's really it.
So that was off the back of action, but more so for self-belief. Would you say anything else in self-belief? Because through action you get confidence, you got, again, another layer of resilience sort of added in there, proving that you can do things. Anything else you would add?
People don't understand, like, there's steps in which these things happen. So there's
self-belief.
Yeah, there's an order in which things take place.
Right.
Like, so if you get someone, like if you take Bob as an example. Now, I don't know Bob from Adam, but I can read him like a fucking book already, right? Because Bob has limiting beliefs. I can't do that. That's negatively framed. Bob can't do this because it's then backed up with his perception of the world. Well, my wife says I can't do it because I'm 50. I need to take care of myself. People get old, people get stuff, people like me can't do this stuff, you know, yada, 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 yada. So he's building this whole image of the perception of his reality based on these beliefs. Right, so he frames them negatively and has these beliefs. So the difficulty is when you come out with, just watch this motivational video, Bob, just write positive affirmations, all you need is a goal and vision. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right, I'm a mess. Right, and I frame everything in the wrong way, and you say, right, okay, Bob, this is what we need to do. Currently, you're a bag of shit. There's 1 foot in the grave, and that you are likely to die if you don't change. Right, you've created massive pain. Right. You can take massive action now if you want to live for your daughter, and here's what it looks like, and you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to just put aside this nonsense that you believe that you're not doing it. So we're going to give you something that's reachable, that you can then understand that what I'm telling you, it might be what you don't believe, but we're going to fucking soon drum it into you that you have no choice to believe it. And the payoff is you keep doing these, you'll live longer for your girl. Right? Sounds fair enough. And then that then starts the process of negative framing, identifying why you get the massive leverage, step 2, right? The step 3, highlighting the pain if they don't change, highlighting the positive benefits if they do change. Then step 4 is let's get something, which is usually the things, the consistency, the reachable goal to build the self-confidence, the self-value, the self-worth. They're the 3 things that come next. And they start to diminish the old beliefs, which is, I can't do it, I'm not worth it, I'm old, I'm decrepit, I'm done, all this sort of stuff. And then the more that they do, the thing that you're telling them reinforces the self-belief, the self-worth, the self-value, and that builds up, right? But what you're doing is you're making it, highlighting it in their brain, Bob's brain. If you keep doing what you're doing, you won't like it so bad that you will regret it. And if you do this, albeit it's hard, it's not as hard as living with that regret or dying. You know, and then you go, and he's like, right, and then that's what. Then following the process is, and then you start to do what you were doing, which is reinforcing the breakdown. Right. How did you do? Right, I got 6 days out of 7. Do you know what? It's a fucking phenomenal result. It's not what you wanted, right? Because you wanted 7 out of 7. But considering where you started from, you would have bit my hand off if I got it, right? How do you feel about missing one day? I don't feel really good, right? You think you can have another crack this week and go for the 7? Right, we'll turn it up a wee bit more, right? Because you've done well, and I think you've got the 7 in you, so let's go again. Yeah. You know, pat him on the back for what he did well, highlight what he didn't do well, and go, look, you want more. And remember why you want it, because they 6 out of 7s took you a step closer to living longer for your girl. Yeah. And these are the things where it starts to really ramp it up.
Yeah. Good. So last one then, what you got for the last one?
Consistency.
So kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Massive one. What do you think of the whole no days off stuff?
Good.
You think it's good?
Love it.
Yeah?
Yep. Absolutely love it.
When's the last time you had a day off?
4th of November 2019.
The reason I asked you, because you told me that once. I remember asking, do you remember when I asked you this like a couple of months ago? I think we were talking about the goal book, and you was like, I've done these habits every single day since this date. Mm-hmm. When you said that, I was like, wow. So talk us through that.
Which bit?
What made you go from this day forward, I'm going to do that? Was it a combination of all the factors that we spoke about it? Was it anything in particular?
Well, the thing that was really obvious to me, that when I was good, I was fucking exceptional. But I wasn't exceptional all the time. Mm. And I remember like listening to man or bitch, listening to my excuses, listening to my own bullshit. I'm like, why am I doing this? Because when I'd listen to these, I get the results that I don't want. Mm. Right? Why do I do it? Like, consistency was a dirty word to me. Like, it was like the buzzword in the corporate world. You just need to be consistent. Like, fuck off. Like,
what's that mean?
Fuck off.
What does it mean?
What does consistency mean?
What does it mean to you?
Consistency means to do the things that align with your vision and get you the 6 pillars of your life that will give you everything that you want to have that experience that we call life, even when you don't feel like it, when you want the day off, when you want to take it easy, when you want to put the feet up. That's consistency, is doing what you need to do, even when you don't feel like you want to do it.
So talk us through then. So you, from this day forward, what is the things that you've not taken? Like when I say no days off, what is that like? No days off from eating, no days off. You know what I mean? Like what did you shape yours around?
It started because I'd put on a bit of extra weight, mostly because I was inconsistent with my training. I'd thought that I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and in there was the habit tracker, and I thought it was way more consistent than it was.
You start doing it.
I spelled
picture.
The what?
It paints the picture, didn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Fuck.
And I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, why am I training and I'm not getting in great shape? Well, because I'm going to the gym 77% of the time, which is 23% less than I thought I was. Because I thought I was bang on, I'll go to the gym all the time. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I would look at my nutrition, how many days I'm eating clean. I was like, my diet's fucking 23% of the time I'm eating the foods that I should. I was like, oh, there's a good indicator. And it was all these things where, right, am I doing what I need to do to get the results that I want to get? And let me be honest about my own delusion. I think that I'm doing better than I actually am. And then it made me go, oh, right, I need to address this. And then it was that fucking word consistency, that bastard word. People like talk about the big C. The big C to me was consistency. Fucking consistency. And it was like, right, okay, let's go and have a look at what is consistency. And the great one the great quote that I read was from Jocko Willink, which was the discipline equals freedom. And I remember, like, he goes in and I'm like, well, fuck me, that's good. Because he's good, because he just sums it up and he leaves you nowhere to go. It's like checkmate. You're like, I'd love to argue with you, but you're right. And it was that thing where it was like,
time to do it.
You know, the count is always zero. What does that mean? Doesn't matter how good you have, the count is always zero. So in the Navy SEALs in the Hell Week, they would press the boat overhead or the overhead logs, and they would have 100 reps to do, and then on the 99th rep, the instructor would say the count is zero because you've fucked up that rep, and then people would crack because like, that's not fucking fair. And then but Jocko was like, count zero, so we go again. And it would be like, life's going to throw you curveballs and you're not going to like it. Just keep dealing with it. Just the count is always zero. And that's when you cut out your inner bitch, where it's like, so I've done really well this week. I deserve to take the foot off the gas, have a day off, take it easy, chill, whatever the fucking thing, blah. And I'm like, I'm doing that. And I'm like, no, the count's always zero. Like, do you want it? Do you want to be a great dad, a great role model, a great husband? Do you want to be proud of yourself? Well, you need to cut this shit out now. Like, right, that's fine. Okay, then. How do I do it? Well, I need to then measure how consistent I am. I need to then say, right, what am I doing? And I'm sure it was the 10,000 steps. And that then morphed into, I remember the day I got really pissed off with it because I went and done a 54-mile bike ride and I was in no shape to ride a bike at that point.
You find yourself going, oh, you've done the 54
I've done the 54 miles, but I've only done 2,000 steps. And I'm I'm like, I surely don't need to do this. I've just fucking turned myself inside out to do this bike ride.
How many days were you years in at this point?
What, cycling?
Aye.
Not even weeks.
So you're weeks in at this point, and this is
weeks in, couldn't ride up a hill, found probably the steepest hill within 54 miles of my house, inadvertently, had to cycle up it. It was warm, it was hot, it was really, really fucking warm conditions. And I got back and I was toasted. My oldest boy Blake done it with me. He was in bits. And I remember looking at my watch going, how the fuck have I still got like 8,000 steps to get in?
Been out all day.
And my legs are in bits.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. And I remember the inner bitch going, you don't need to do that. You deserve that. You're you can chill. You can put your feet up. I'm like, no, I'm fucking not. And I went round and I walked around the park and I done the 6 laps that it took me to get my 8,000 steps in. And I remember fighting my inner bitch, just like, why are you doing this? This is pointless. How are you going to recover? You've just done, and just all the excuses were there. I remember thinking, right, I'll get 1 lap in, and then I'll get another lap in. Then it just started to quiet down.
Talking, yeah. And
I was like, right, I've done this before. I can get the laps in, and then watch ticked over 10,000. I was like, right, fucking happy with that, because what I was doing was developing the resistance to giving into the inner bitch, and then now the inner bitch never gets a vote. But from November 4th, 2019, the inner bitch was in full volume. And since then, I've had plenty of opportunities to give in to the inner bitch, and not done it, even to the point where, you know, people would go, that's, you know, probably fucking pretty dangerous. You know, I'm like, no, I'm not giving in. I'll make it. Like, am I in mortal danger if I do it? Like, no, right, keep going then. Just never cracked. Plenty of opportunities, plenty.
Is this the same with like the hustle and the whatever else it is that you're doing, or
whatever your vision is?
Have you just tied it to?
Like, I tied it initially to
fitness.
Like what I tied it to was something I could measure, that I could do every day, that I had to do, that was hard enough but not that hard. It shouldn't be missed, so there should be no fucking excuse that you should be missing it. and it wasn't about whether 10,000 steps were really that
it's not the significance of them.
It was more a case of
commitment.
Mentally, you've made a commitment to do something, and there is no excuse that you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
and that was the thing that I was wanting to develop. It was the mentality rather than the activity.
Yeah, and I just brought this up in an episode, maybe the last 3 episodes or 4 episodes when I was recording Sunday night. I was like, this is the last thing I want to do. But you get enough days under your belt, enough years under your belt, that you said that voice isn't there, and it doesn't become I'll just give yourself a rest. It goes, no, come on, get that done. And you push through. You
do not negotiate with your inner bitch.
You don't, like,
there's no negotiation.
It's almost like the voice isn't there. I feel, so I was thinking that, so I've had plenty of opportunities to like give up on something.
You hear the voice, but it's not yours.
True.
It used to be you were convinced it was you, and now it's other people would say that I shouldn't do this. Other people would say I'd just take a day off. Other people would say, what's the difference between posting it a day after the day that you were planning to do it? Other people would say
that bond.
I wouldn't say it. And it's these things where, like, instantly, like, one episode, will it matter? No. But if you do that in every area of your life, will it change in a week or a month? No. But 3, 4, 5 years in, people are like, how do you keep doing this? And well, these are the wee things. And they go, it can't be that. Well, it is.
What would you say to someone then? Like, would you say it's as simple as picking something that does it need to be challenging enough at the start? Because 10,000 steps wasn't. Well, was that a challenge for you? Was it something you were measuring, going off? I'm not actually doing this.
It's more like, say, like the days that were the worst were like, you're at 9,000 steps and it's fucking covered in ice outside and it's Christmas Day.
Aye.
And who in their right mind would go out and walk? Well, me.
Yeah.
Because I've got something that I'm.
So you made
that. It wasn't like you were. It was like I'm not going to stop and like give up now. It was just, but the option, like if you weighed it up and you balanced the logic that someone would give you, you would go, you've got really good logic there. But it wasn't about logic. Some things are emotionally driven. Some things are like, I will feel better. My emotions will feel better if I do this thing regardless of the logic. Because logically it makes sense that it doesn't matter that much, but emotionally this is meaningful.
See, the day that you were on 2,000, how good did it feel when you hit the 10? Was that you like do you get that reward? So you get the hit, the feeling that you can't buy if you didn't do it, and then you're then fed the guilt and all the negative emotions if you missed that day.
I remember walking by the pull-up bar, because it was a pull-up bar that myself and Paul used during lockdown when the gyms are closed, and it's a pull-up bar that in the park that I've done pull-ups with Blake, I've done pull-ups with George, and I remember that was a bit that the watch clicked over 10,000. And I remember just thinking, fuck you, and a bit, who you fuck, I will never fucking give in to you, ever. I will never, ever, ever give in to you. I know that I'm in shit, Nick. I know that I am fucking in tatters. I know that I'm sunburnt. I know all these things. And you tried to convince me that I shouldn't do this. I will never, ever give in to you.
It's very sad that not enough people get to experience the rewards, that feeling. The discipline is freedom. There's a large chunk of our population that can't.
You will never ever feel the feeling that when you've got something, it might be, I don't know what the conditions would be, but it would be something like this. Everyone says that you probably shouldn't do it. You know that you can do it, but you need to, with the last bit of your emotion or your last bit of your mindset, that you go, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And you grind through it and you scrape by and you just cross that line. Right. And when you sit down and you go, fuck me, man, that was hard. Right. But I'm really glad that I've done it. You will not, the inward euphoria that you'll feel for you is like nothing else.
See the feelings, does that trump anything that you bought?
Aye, because anything can be bought. You can't buy that. There's things that you can buy and there's things that you can't buy, and you can't buy that feeling. Like, you can buy Lamborghinis, you can buy holiday homes, you can buy holidays, you can buy fucking jets, you can buy Rolexes, you can buy all that stuff. Right? So it's just a function of like how much money you've got in your bank. But you cannot buy that feeling within. And that's an energy. and it's something that energy's earned, and there's a particular set of circumstances that will gift you that energy, and that gift that you'll receive is from an environment that is shit, that means that you need to grind and get there, and that you'll feel that you don't want it. And if you don't give in, you get that ultimate gift.
I love it.
And it's fucking free of charge.
I know.
There is no money exchanged.
I know. It's weird because people are always wanting all these other things, but you dive into those layers, get into the 6 pillars or the 4 pillars first, and open up your mind to these 6 other pillars. So what a great point to end on. Definitely get you back for more mindset chat. Where can so obviously you've got your mindset coaching, so I think I'll say this in the intro anyway, but definitely recommend that. It's something I've been a part of for the last couple of months as well. And you, as I said at the start of the episode, definitely seen that live coaching experience with the chap that was on the call going through what he was going at, like an actual personal circumstance. People have the option to do that with you. So if they've listened this far and they've liked what you said, it's cheap as chips as well to join. Was it £20 to be a part of your mindset?
20 quid a month. So we keep it cheap. We do, we want to get everybody involved. You get the library of all our past videos where we've done these coaching calls on a Sunday night. I've done private coaching with people one-to-one who want, maybe not ready for a group environment, and they want to either get through that glass ceiling or help find the particular combination that they operate within. But the idea with the community is that there's people out there that you might be in, like Bob's environment that you pointed out earlier, where you're not in the right environment, but you have a goal or a dream or an aspiration, and you want to plug into an environment that's going to help you, push you there. Yeah. Well, that's what the Mount Mindset is all about, is being around people, whether you come along to one of the Mount Mindset meetups that we do each month, which is climbing a hill. You get everyone together and you can experience what it's like to be around that group of people. You can plug yourself into that energy. And we also do the mindset coaching calls, which is every Sunday night. And my ethos was, your week doesn't start on a Monday, your week starts the Sunday, where you...
Oh, weird, because me and Jillian had this back and forth, because in religion, Sunday's the first day of the week. And I'm like, no, it's Monday.
Yep. It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
This is the thing, is like, you imagine like the Sunday was always a day of rest. It's like, what are you doing your day of rest? It's like, if everything like we spoke about and we started as a vision, then you visualize your week, build it. Why are you like, people are too quick at going, right, it's Monday, they have hit the snooze 14 fucking times on their phone, then it's, let me go on Instagram, let me go on YouTube, and they're just whisked away with the week and what everyone else has got planned for them. They've not thought, like, what's my vision? Do I have goals? What does that goal look like? How can I do it this week? What action can I take? How can I be consistent? What would consistent look like? If I had the most,
that far ahead.
Yeah, if you had the most amazing week, if you ask people on a Sunday night, if you had the most amazing week tomorrow through to next Sunday, and we were on that call next week, what would that most amazing week look like? They wouldn't know how to answer you.
Yeah. No, and
then they wonder why they're not getting the results in life. You're like, well, I've got a fucking very good idea why you're not getting the results that you want.
I think mindset is it's one that, like you said, you can have your nose turned up against it, but there's layers to it. And once you start, you're a fantastic role model to have in that space, where you peel back those layers and you get a real gift of how to get through to everyone. Sometimes your approach is direct, but you do have a compassionate and empathetic side to you. So it's good. It was great to see those on the calls on Sunday. So I'll leave the links for that in the show notes for sure. But absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me on. It was great fun.